Go through the priests that served the St. Rose Church and are buried in the St. Rose Cemetery in Chicopee, Massachusetts. Now, we always start with the founder, but in this case we're not. Well, I'm going to tell you the first situation is this. This St. Rose was a mission church of the Nativity Church of Willimanson. And from 1848 to 1909, it had a special mission pastor, which means he served Nativity Church, but on Sunday at a certain time he'd go up to a little mission church, which turned into a chapel, and he's not considered a founding priest. He didn't make the first church, and he's considered priest number 0. You call him that, and the reason why is because it was still small and not grown into a big parish. The parish church and the first pastor of the parish are considered different from the mission church. All right, so the first one, his name was Hermistus Hamlin, and he served from 1898 to 1909. I don't know what happened to him. He's very hard to track because of a very strange first name and a very common last name in French. But we will go to the first pastor. First pastor is right here. I'm going to go up to the gravestone and point out certain features. His father is buried with him, Joseph Fredette, born July of 1832, died January 1911. Alright, he was the father of the person of the same name, the Reverend Joseph Fredette, 1871 to 1950. He was the founding pastor of St. Rose de Lima Church, 1909 to 1918. And I'll repeat that over here, if you couldn't hear me. He was the founding pastor of St. Rose de Lima Church in Aldenville, and that was from 1909 to 1918. And he's buried with his father on that same section. So that's a great honor that he's buried in there. It probably was sure that the priest circle wasn't quite ready yet, and so he's buried to the side of all this. Okay, so that's 2 pastors, and we're going to meet the others, most of the others that go around, except we're not going to meet the third one. The third one was not buried in the cemetery. It's probably the only pastor of St. Rose de Lima never buried in the cemetery. And the reason why was he wanted to be buried back in Quebec. His name was Joseph Brochu. He served from 1918 to 1924. And then we have to go to the next pastor from 1924. And then we're going to walk the back of the Alright, this is pastor number 4. He's a Monsignor. In fact, every pastor in this circle is a Monsignor. That's the highest title you can be given if you're a pastor of a church. That means you have accomplished a lot in life. You also accomplished a lot for the community, the parish. So he was a doctorate of pastoral letters, which is the highest a pastor can ever get on the university level. He's basically a PhD for religious people. His name was Monsignor Jean-Baptiste Lamothe, and I'll tell you what the words mean below, and this is true for all of them. Ne means you're born, or dene means you're ordained, and décédé means you died. So he was born in 1880 and died in 1967, and he was curé. If you look down the second level on the base of that, it says curé, which means pastor, of the St. Rose de Lima Church, 1925 to 1945. That's 20 years of strong service. He also was the pastor of Notre Dame de Southbridge, and that's in Massachusetts, from 1945 to 67. And when he died as a pastor, he was buried back in his favorite church, St. Rose de Lima. You can see it's very beautiful in this circle. So he was next, and who was he succeeded by? Well, remember he served till 1945, so we'll go around the circle and find the next one. pastor, Monsignor Charles Fortin, and it says on his stone, PD, that's Doctorate of Pastoral Letters. He also had a doctorate. He also was a Monsignor. And then on it says a lot of things that are very important. I would consider him to be the most important pastor in the history of St. Rose de Lima Church. It says in the very top here, ne, born, ordine, ordained, investe, means you're made into a Monsignor, invested as a Monsignor, decede, deceased, and then down on the steps, each of the 3 steps has a comment on what he did as a pastor for St. Rose. Pastor for St. Rose de Lima, 1945 to 1958. That's what the first step down says. The next step down says, bâtisseur. Bâtisseur means that you're a builder. And what did he have built? He had the convent built, which is still out there, Convent, convent, 1951 it was made. Église means the church, and you can see next to it, 1952. That, of course, is the one still out there on Guerin Street. It's an enormous church. And then in the very bottom, it says, Souvenez-vous, which means that a loose translation is that we have found remembrance of you. That's a very nice thing to say about a pastor. Okay, so that was Charles 14. Alright, so the next one we're going to do. Okay, here we're in front of Monsignor Joseph Armand Silvain, PD, Doctor of Pastoral Letters. Again, he's a Monsignor because of what he did academically and as a pastor. He said he's a pastor of St. Rose de Lima, born, ordained, and deceased. Deceased 1964. All right, so he was a pastor from 1958 to 1964. Again, all 6 pastors were Monsignors. That's an incredible fact. You'll probably never find another church in Western Massachusetts where you have that many Monsignors in the same church. So, next one. Okay, next pastor in line, Monsignor Eugene Guerin, PD, Doctorate of Pastoral Letters. Monsignor because, again, what he did for the church and what he did academically. Ne, ordine, deceased 1998. And then it says down on the steps here, Cure, Precious Song. That means precious blood, the Precious Blood Church. In this case, happens to be one in Hoyle, 1953, 1964. And then it says Cure, St. Rose de Lima, 1964 to 1977. He served for 13 years in the St. Rose de Lima Church of Alderman, Chicopee. All right, so that's Eugene. And then the next one, he's not in this pre-circle, but he's in the section over here. In fact, he's in the back section close to the White House in the next street over with the black shutters. And so he's not buried here. And then the next one is not buried in a circle also. He's buried at the very edge of the St. Eugene section. His name is John Paul Richard. And so 2 pastors in a row served only a short while. Roger Viau served from 1976 to 1978. And John Paul Richard served from 1978 to 1989. They were not Monsignors, so finally you have 2 that weren't. All right, next. You're in front of this one right here. All right, this one, they have putting flowers in front of it. This is the Reverend Monsignor Leo LeClerc. He was very popular with the parishioners. His name is repeated on the back. Born, ordained, and then it says Prelate of Honor. I think underneath it says 1991. Called home in the year 2010, ordained a priest to bring people to God and God to people. Reverend Monsignor, he was so beloved that he took on the name Righteous Reverend. If you're Monsignor, you can take on that name if you care to. But he was a very, very friendly pastor to parishioners. He's probably the most beloved of all the ones that served in this church. Now, we're going to pull back a little bit now. We come to this one right here. Now, he was not a priest at this church, but he loved this circle so much. And that's Raoul Ouillet. He was not a Monsignor, but he wasn't a pastor here. Born, ordained, and then he died in 1955. He served as a pastor of the parish of St. Raphael in Williamstown, Massachusetts. He might have, at some point, have been associated with Chicopee. So that's all the priests in the priest circle, plus the founder, the Joseph Fredette outfit. I hope you enjoyed this stop at St. Rose de Lima Cemetery.